Good evening all and welcome to another video on All Hail the Ale. It's Saturday night, which means it's craft beer night, and we're taking it back to the old school tonight. We're doing a side-by-side taste test of two beers that I had very early on in my craft beer journey. It's these two. It is Beavertown's Lupuloid and Northern Monk's Heathen. And I know they're not really the same kind of beer, but I'm just going back to two beers I thoroughly enjoyed way back when. And in fairness, they've both changed quite a bit. Beavertown have been bought out by Heineken. Northern Monk have pushed into supermarkets in a bigger way. And in my humble opinion, the quality has dropped a little bit, particularly with Heathen. But yeah, we're just going to go tonight, do a side-by-side of these two that used to be great beers, don't get me wrong, and see which I prefer now. So, yeah, just to fill you in on a bit of the blurb. So the Beavertown Lupuloid is a 6.7% ABV IPA. Still got some of the coolest artwork in the craft beer world. You know, you've got that space-themed, space theme, really. And it's an awesome can artwork. And Heathen has changed quite a bit, both in style of the beer. Well, not in the style of the beer, in the style of the can, sorry, and the quality of the beer. That's the Heathen now. It's a hazy IPA, slightly higher at 7.2. This one describes an unholy hazy IPA amped up with heavy-hitting hops for a flavour that defies belief. Now, the original Heathen used to be really, really good. The more recent brews that I've had have not been, in my opinion, as good as they used to be. And it's the same with the Lupuloid. Lupuloid I always found was a little bit inconsistent in its flavour. And when the more recent brews came out, it was just not the same either. It was less flavoursome. And yeah, so there we go. So the board of joy is going to look a little something like this. It's just going to be pretty much blank. We're going to give a point to whichever one wins each category. And on some of these side-by-side comparisons, I'm doing them blindfolded, but this one I'm not. Because I'm not. So, yeah, let's get them out the cans into glasses and see what we think. So, naturally, the Northern Monk is going to go into the Northern Monk glass. I'm going to pour that one first. And the pour is pale, hazy. Let's not go too nuts. I want a decent head on that. Okay, that's a bit nuts. Yeah, Heathen, I'm 99.9% certain, looked a lot better than that in the past. It had more colour, more depth to it. I'll have to hunt out some old photos and whatnot. But yeah, it's still got a nice white head on it. There's no denying that. And we're going to get the Lupuloid out into a tiny Rebel glass. I don't own any Beavertown glassware. I've had many opportunities to acquire some and just have not taken the plunge. So the pour is pale, slightly hazy, not massively so. That'll do. A little bit clearer, yeah. Similar kind of colour, but with a lot more clarity. Yeah, it's a little bit more yellow. The heads are almost identical. Yeah, they are. So we're going to give points out now for the visuals, and the point's going to go to the one which I prefer the look of. And in all honesty, I prefer the look of the Heathen because it's just got a little bit more about it. I prefer the haze of the Heathen. I must admit, when I'm drinking a craft beer, Heineken have, well, destroyed Lupuloid. Anyway, let's go for an aroma test. So starting with the Heathen. It is juicy. It's got some pineapple going on. Some pithy citrus. Lots of stone fruit. And there is a nice hop forward nature to it. It's not as punchy as it used to be though. But it's still nice. And the Lupuloid used to be really bitter on the nose. Of course, this one smells Smells of not a lot, if I'm honest. It's more malty than it is hoppy. And then there's a distinct undertone of something that I'd rather not remember. Baby's nappies, anyone? Yeah, it doesn't smell good. Whereas at least the Heathen smells good and it smells fruity. So the point is going to the Heathen on the aroma test. And the body, we're going to start with a Lupuloid just for the crack. So on this style of beer, I like them medium weight. I like them with a good carbonation, not overly so. Soft carbonation, just under medium weight. Mouthfeel is quite alright. Whereas the Heathen, infinitely better. Infinitely better. This one, the Heathen, has got a hop chew to it. This one is much more like a flavoured water with soft carbonation running through it. It's really quite dramatically different, and without any shadow of a doubt, the Heathen wins that one by a long shot. It just feels more like a beer in the mouth, and yeah, so naturally it's going to get the point. And the most important bit is the flavour, which obviously I've already sampled. We're going to go for the first off with the Heathen. Doesn't taste like a 7.2% beer at all, but it has got that nice pineapple, that ripe mango, subtle pithy citrus. It's not as intense as it used to be. It used to be a lot more bitter. It used to be more towards a West Coast vibe from memory. And the Lupuloid, used to be really intense, really hop bitterness. It used to have a real pithiness to it, and it doesn't anymore. It is a shadow, an utter shadow of its former self. This one just doesn't taste good at all, and in fact I'm questioning, is it in date? I should have checked that. Yeah, it was only canned a few weeks ago. This doesn't taste good at all. In fact, I'm going to give the Lupuloid a -1. I know we normally give points to the winner, and we're still going to give a point to the Heathen for the win. But the Lupuloid is losing a point for, well, just not turning up to the party at all. And the finish on an IPA, I want them hoppy, bitter, long, and we're going to start with the Lupuloid and see if it's going to have any redeeming features at all. So there is a bitterness. It's ever so slightly green. It's mildly hoppy, and it is reasonably long. There's no getting away from that fact. It is a reasonably long, mildly hoppy, subtly bitter finish. And the Heathen, let's get that juiciness out of the way. It's sweeter. It is more hoppy, more intense, juicier, much more flavour to it. And I think it goes without saying that it's going to get the point. Which means it's a -1 to a 5 on the scoreboard of joy. I've never awarded a minus point before, and I should start doing more of that, actually, when necessary. So that's the scoreboard of joy. -1 to the Lupuloid, 5 to the Heathen. Now, that was not expected to be as dramatically different as that. I'm going to be honest. I back in the day, really enjoyed Lupuloid. It was an absolutely fantastic beer. When Logan Plant still had control over everything, and then he sold his soul to Heineken. And like any big brewery, they fucking ruin things. And they've utterly, utterly destroyed what was a brilliant beer. They've taken all the soul out of it. The bean counters have said, right, you can't do anything decent with it anymore. Drop the quality of the ingredients, drop the intensity, do something to make us more money. And, just the only thing that is remotely related to the original beer is can artwork. I mean, back in the day, it was in 330s as well, and it looked the same. But the contents now is utter garbage. And that is an utter shame. Whereas Northern Monk, as far as I'm aware, they're still controlled by the same people as before. There's no outside influence. The only real difference is here, maybe in terms of being able to meet the supply demand, is to ramp up production, and maybe that has taken a little bit of the quality away. And inevitably, there's going to be a trade-off in the ingredients. I can't pretend to know the original recipe at all, but it's nowhere near as intense as it used to be. Heathen used to be real in your face, and now it's just a little bit worse off than where it used to be. I'm going to try and find some photos of the original purchases of these beers I had many years ago. Lupuloid, the first one I got was from London Road Ale House on, funnily enough, London Road in Stoke. And the Heathen was from Otter's Tears. It's a little bottle shop that used to be up in Burslem. Sadly not there anymore. Phil, the owner, great guy, moved away. It still runs online. And yeah, check out his web store if you get 5 minutes. I'll stick a link somewhere in the description. Really great guy, knows his onions about beer, and that's where I first tried Heathen. And I remember going to him after visiting a few times. I said, "Look, Phil, have you got this beer?" And he's like, "What do you mean, have you got this beer?" He said, "Don't you want to try something else?" I said, "Yes, I do, but I want to I want more of the same of what I enjoy." He said, "That's really rare in the craft beer world. People just want to try the new things and not go back to the things they thoroughly enjoyed." And I repeatedly purchased from him Heathen. I repeatedly purchased the other Northern Monk beer, Don't Look Batarang in Anger. That was brilliant. And what else did I buy from him en masse? It was the Finback and Burnt Mill beer, Swimming Giants. I bought cases of that from him back in the day, as I did Heathen in large quantities, because it was just such a tasty beer. And yeah, now the price has dropped. The quality has as well, and it's just not as good as it used to be. Maybe that's the supermarket ones. I don't know if they have different ones on the Northern Monk web store. I may have to try it and find out and see. But yeah, definitely the winner today is Heathen. A much better tasting beer. Even if it is not the shadow of its former self, it is still the worthy winner when you compare it to Lupuloid. So yeah, ladies and gents, I'm going to be urging you not to try Lupuloid. It will be a disappointment to you, but yeah, Heathen is still worth a go. It's just not as good as it used to be. But then again, it is a fair bit cheaper in Sainsbury's now than it ever used to be, buying it direct. So there we go. One winner, one not so much. One needs to go out into space and burn up in the atmosphere. The other one does not need to burn in hell. And we'll leave it there and say, those have been the beers. I've been me. Those down there are the buttons. You know exactly what to do with them by now. You've got your like, comment, dislike, and subscribe. Choose any combination of them as you wish. And I'll see you again soon for another one. Bye for now.